A senator just claimed that a new bill will eliminate taxes on Social Security for seniors. But here's the shocking truth that could affect millions of Americans. In this video, you'll discover what's really inside this so-called big beautiful bill, why politicians are making misleading claims about Social Security, and how temporary tax cuts for working families contrast sharply with permanent benefits for the wealthy. Most importantly, you'll learn exactly how this could impact your financial future. Welcome to Financial Area, where we cut through political spin to bring you the real facts about money, taxes, and your financial security. If you want to stay informed about legislation that affects your wallet, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more no-nonsense financial analysis. Right now, there's a piece of legislation making its way through Congress that politicians are calling the Big Beautiful Bill. They're promising it will deliver the largest tax cut in American history. But as we're about to see, the reality is far different from what's being sold to the American people. This bill, officially known as OB3, has already passed the House of Representatives and is now under consideration in the Senate. If the Senate makes changes, it goes back to the House for another vote. That's normal for the legislative process, but it also means the final version could look completely different from what we're hearing about now. Senator Marsha Blackburn recently posted a video on her official channels making some bold claims about this bill. She called it the largest tax cut for American taxpayers in our nation's history and warned that if it doesn't pass, we'll face the biggest tax hike in American history. But here's where things get interesting and concerning. In her video, Senator Blackburn made a statement that caught a lot of attention. She claimed the bill includes no tax on Social Security for our seniors. This sounds incredible, right? If you're a senior or approaching retirement, hearing that your Social Security benefits won't be taxed anymore would be huge news. But here's the problem. That's not actually what the bill does. When you look at the actual text of the legislation, there's no provision that eliminates taxes on Social Security benefits. Instead, the bill offers a $4,000 tax deduction for individuals age 65 and older. Now, a $4,000 deduction is certainly something, but it's nowhere near the same as completely eliminating taxes on Social Security. Think about it this way. If you're in the 22% tax bracket, a $4,000 deduction saves you about $880 in taxes. That's nice, but it's not the same as having your entire Social Security benefit become tax-free. For someone receiving the average Social Security benefit of about $1,800 per month, the difference between a small deduction and complete tax elimination could be thousands of dollars per year. This isn't just a small miscommunication, it's a fundamental misrepresentation of what the bill actually does. And it raises serious questions about whether our elected officials fully understand the legislation they're promoting. This pattern isn't unique to Senator Blackburn. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for this same bill, only to later discover it included provisions related to artificial intelligence that she strongly opposed. She admitted she hadn't realized these provisions were in the bill when she voted for it. This is happening far too often in Congress. Politicians are voting on massive, complex bills without fully understanding what's in them. Then they go out and make promises to their constituents based on incomplete or incorrect information. Now, let's talk about something that makes this situation even more problematic: the timeline of these tax cuts. Remember that $4,000 deduction for seniors? It's only temporary. After 3 years, it disappears. The same goes for other provisions that sound great in campaign ads, like eliminating taxes on tips and overtime pay. All of these benefits for working Americans and seniors have an expiration date of just 3 years. But here's what's permanent: the tax cuts for wealthy individuals and corporations that were first passed in 2017. These cuts were originally set to expire in 2025, but this new bill makes them permanent. So, while your tax relief disappears after 3 years, the benefits for the wealthiest Americans are locked in forever. Let's put this in perspective. If you're a senior getting that $4,000 deduction, you'll save maybe $800 to $1,200 per year in taxes, but only for 3 years. After that, you're back to paying full taxes. Meanwhile, someone in the highest tax bracket could be saving tens of thousands of dollars every single year, and those savings continue indefinitely. This isn't just unfair, it reveals the true priorities behind this legislation. The temporary tax cuts for ordinary Americans are essentially political theater, designed to make the bill sound appealing to voters. The real substance of the bill is making sure wealthy individuals and large corporations get permanent tax advantages. Think about what this means for your long-term financial planning. If you're counting on tax relief to help stretch your retirement savings, you need to know that relief is only guaranteed for 3 years. If you're a working parent hoping the elimination of taxes on overtime will help your family budget, you need to plan for those benefits to disappear. But the story gets even worse when you look at how this bill is being paid for. To offset the cost of making those 2017 tax cuts permanent, which primarily benefit the wealthy, lawmakers are considering significant cuts to programs that millions of Americans depend on. We're talking about cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. Now, politicians often try to sell these cuts by claiming they only affect able-bodied adults who should be working anyway, but that's not the reality. Medicaid serves 90 million Americans, including 40 million children, 12 million seniors, and 9 million people with disabilities. SNAP helps feed 41 million people, including 16 million children and 5 million seniors. These aren't programs for lazy people who don't want to work. These are safety net programs that help vulnerable Americans, many of whom are working but still struggling to make ends meet. And here's something that might surprise you. Even if you don't directly use Medicaid or SNAP, cuts to these programs could still affect you and your family. Hospitals that serve large numbers of Medicaid patients could be forced to close if funding is slashed. Rural hospitals are especially vulnerable. If your local hospital closes because it can't afford to operate with reduced Medicaid reimbursements, where will you go in an emergency? What happens to property values in your community when the hospital shuts down? Similarly, cuts to SNAP don't just affect the people who use the program. Local grocery stores, especially in lower income areas, depend on SNAP spending. When that money disappears, some stores may close, creating food deserts that affect entire neighborhoods. If you have elderly parents or relatives who might need Medicaid for nursing home care in the future, cuts to the program could mean they can't get the care they need. Medicaid pays for about 60% of all nursing home residents. If that funding is reduced, families may have to choose between bankrupting themselves to pay for care or watching their loved ones go without proper medical attention. This is the hidden cost of making permanent tax cuts for the wealthy. The money has to come from somewhere, and it's coming from programs that provide health care, nutrition, and basic security for millions of Americans. So, what can you do about all this? First, don't rely on politicians' statements or campaign ads to understand what legislation actually does. Look for independent analyses from nonpartisan organizations that break down the details in plain language. Organizations like the Congressional Budget Office, the Tax Policy Center, and the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget provide fact-based analysis without political spin. Second, contact your representatives and ask them specific questions about the bills they support. Don't let them get away with vague talking points. Ask them to explain exactly how legislation will affect you and your family. If they make claims that sound too good to be true, ask them to point to the specific section of the bill that supports their statements. Third, hold your elected officials accountable when they make misleading statements. Senator Blackburn's claim about eliminating Social Security taxes isn't just wrong. It's the kind of misinformation that prevents voters from making informed decisions. When politicians spread false information, call them out on it. Finally, stay engaged in the political process beyond just voting every few years. Attend town halls, participate in community discussions, and make your voice heard when important legislation is being considered. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if you don't speak up for your interests, you can be sure someone else is speaking up for theirs. Here's the bottom line about this so-called big beautiful bill. It's designed to look like it helps everyone, but the real benefits go to those who are already wealthy. Working families and seniors get temporary crumbs, while the rich get permanent advantages. And to pay for those permanent advantages, the social safety net that protects vulnerable Americans is being shredded.